Okay, so you want your boss to value you and not just your code. Now, most engineers spend years thinking that writing flawless code and crushing tickets faster than anyone on the team is the way to do it. But what most don't know is that there's an invisible evaluation happening at every meeting, every code review, every Slack message. And it almost has nothing to do with your technical skills. And once I figured this out, 3 promotions in 18 months. And trust me, I didn't suddenly become this coding genius overnight. So in this video, I'm going to show you the exact framework that your bosses will value you and not just your output. You're going to learn 3 specific strategies that transform me from just another programmer to someone my manager couldn't imagine losing. And listen, these aren't vague soft skill tips. I'm talking about practical systems you can use in your very next meeting to stand out. No more getting lost in the crowd. Let's fix that today. But first, you need to understand how I discovered this for myself. Now, my first year as a mid-level engineer, I thought I was absolutely crushing it, like seriously crushing it. I was basically a ticket closing machine. My Jira column would be completely empty just days into the sprint. Yes, I was that guy. But then the all hands meetings would roll around and suddenly it was shout out time for everyone else. You know how it goes. Great work on that refactor, Sarah. Amazing job on that API integration, Dave. And here I am just sitting here thinking, what the actual f? Honestly, it took me an embarrassing long time to realize that I was operating under this massive misconception that engineers have. This idea that your technical output somehow correlates with your recognition. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. Then one day, I got a wake-up call I desperately needed. I got passed over for this really cool project that I was literally perfect for. The tech stack matched my experience exactly, and I had all the domain knowledge. It made 0 sense. So finally, I worked up the courage and I asked my manager straight up, I said, what gives? And his response was 5 simple words that would change my career. You're a great builder, but you're not an owner. At first, I was confused and maybe a little offended. That phrase unlocked everything for me. See, what nobody's talking about is this invisible factor that separates engineers who get stuck from those who get promoted rapidly. It's called the ownership mindset. Now, starting with strategy 1, we need to understand the why behind every single task we do. Here's what typically happens. Most engineers get a ticket that says, implement a drop-down filter, and they immediately dive into the code. Task assigned, task complete, next ticket please. We've all been there, right? But here's what ownership actually looks like. When you get that same ticket, you pause and you ask yourself, hold up, why do we actually need this dropdown in the first place? What specific problem are we actually solving for our users? And how does this feature connect to the bigger business goals? And is a dropdown really the best solution here? Let me show you how this plays out in real life. The builder engineer basically says, I'll implement this drop-down menu exactly as specified. When do you need it by? But the owner says something like, so from what I understand, this drop-down will help users filter results faster, which saves them time and boosts engagement. That makes sense. But before we dive in, I was wondering if we considered alternatives like autocomplete. I'd be happy to mock up a couple options for a comparison if that would be helpful. Now, do you see the difference here? The builder is completely task-focused. The owner is thinking about the actual outcome. But here's the secret sauce that nobody's telling you. Your manager probably doesn't even know the solution that they want. They know that there's a problem that needs solving. So when you come with thoughtful questions and alternatives, you're not just implementing their vision, you're actually helping shape it. And that's incredibly valuable. So here's exactly what I want you to do. I want you to first schedule a quick chat with your PM or tech lead and just ask, can you help me understand the actual business or user problem we're trying to solve here? Then you're gonna wanna follow up with something like this. How will we know if this is successful? Like what metric should improve when we ship this? Before you write a single line of code, brainstorm at least 2 different approaches to solve this problem. And then this is the key. Document your thought process so people can see your reasoning. This whole process shows everyone that you genuinely care about the outcome and you're not just trying to check boxes. Okay, so let's talk about the second strategy. We don't want to just implement solutions. We actually want to propose them. Now, here's what I mean. Picture this, we have 2 engineers. Engineer A finishes their task and shoots a message to their manager, hey, I finished those tickets, what should I work on next? And then there's engineer B. I finished those tickets and I noticed that the image loading is causing some layout shifts. I've sketched out 3 approaches to fix it. Do you have 15 minutes to discuss which one makes the most sense? Now, be honest here. Who would you rather have on your team? This isn't about stepping on anyone's toes. This is about showing some initiative and proving that you actually solve problems and not just wait around for instructions. Now, I can already hear what you're thinking, but I'm a junior. Won't I look presumptuous? Here's the thing. It doesn't matter what level that you're at. Everyone has a different perspective. The real key is on how you present your ideas. Now, instead of saying we should do X, try something like, I noticed this issue and I wondered if we considered, based on what I understand, what if I did some research and I found the approach that might help X. These phrases show that you're thoughtful, not arrogant. So if you're not already in planning meetings, ask to join as an observer. Then ask some thoughtful questions like, what metrics are we trying to improve here? Have we considered how this might affect other parts of our system? Could we implement a simpler version first to test the concept? Now, even if your ideas aren't chosen, just proposing solutions signals that you're thinking like an owner, not just an employee. And trust me, people notice the difference. And finally, the last strategy is all about learning to communicate in terms of impact, not just technical details. As engineers, we're very guilty of saying things like, I refactored this authentication module to use JWT tokens. And sure, that sounds pretty impressive to other engineers, but your manager is sitting there like, so what? Why should I care about this? And here's how an owner communicates the exact same work. I rebuilt our authentication system, which will reduce login issues by 80% and improve security. This directly impacts retention since login friction was our #2 reported problem. Now, do you see the difference here? The first statement just talks about what you did. Now, the second talks about why it actually matters to the business. Let me share a simple framework that completely transformed how I communicate. I call it the XYZ framework. I did X, which enables Y, resulting in Z. X is going to be the technical work, what you actually did. Y is the capability it creates, what it enables. Z is the actual business impact. Why should anybody care? For example, instead of saying, I converted our component structure to a library pattern, you would say, I converted our component structure to a library pattern, which enables easier scaling. This will reduce onboarding time by about 30% and decrease PR conflicts, resulting in faster feature delivery. The technical details haven't changed at all, but your work is now connected to actual business outcomes that people care about. Now, I know what you're probably thinking, but how can I quantify impacts when metrics aren't obvious? Look, not everything can be easily measured, but you can almost always frame impact in terms of time savings, error reduction, improved user experience, future capabilities, and risk reduction. I want you to try this. Take the last 3 things that you worked on and rewrite them using the XYZ framework. It's like putting on glasses for the first time. You'll suddenly see your work in a completely different light. Okay, now let's pull everything together in a daily framework that you can start using today. I call this the OWN framework. I know, it's clever. It's 3 simple questions that completely transform how you approach your work. Now, O stands for outcome. Before you start coding, I want you to ask, what is the real desired outcome here? Don't focus on the ticket description. Think about the larger initiative it's part of. And W is for the why. Ask yourself, why does this actually matter? Not to you, but to the users, to the business, and to your team. This gives you the context most developers never even bother to get. And finally, N stands for next. This is where ownership really shows. What's the next level impact I could create beyond what's expected? This is where you go from good to indispensable. Here's how this works in practice. Before every meeting or task, run through these 3 questions. Then, when you communicate your work, structure it using that XYZ framework we talked about earlier. I completed X, technical work, which enables Y, capability, resulting in Z, business impact. This framework turns even the most routine update into a powerful demonstration of your ownership mindset. Now, I put together a quick reference guide you can snag down in the description below. So here's the bottom line. Your technical skills alone won't get you noticed. Not anymore, unfortunately. What truly sets you apart is this ownership mindset we've been talking about. Look, in today's world, code has become a commodity. AI can write code, offshore teams can write code, but what can't be replaced is an engineer who thinks like an owner. Someone who gets the business, who brings solutions to the table, and who communicate in a way that everyone understands the value. I'm genuinely curious, which of these strategies are you going to try first? Drop a comment below and let me know. And hey, honestly, if this helped you see things differently, hit that subscribe button below so more engineers can discover this approach. So go out there and get noticed. I'll see you in the next one.